MC slaying.
Salama family, salama. How y'all doing today? Hope you're blessed and highly favored. Today we have with us brother Big Red. Big Red, say hi to the family.
How y'all doing, man? What's good? What's good?
So family, we're gonna be talking about mysteries, secrets, hidden agendas, out of place artifacts they call OOPARTS. Now, in the past, if you notice, Tell Ministries haven't really talked about that stuff too much. And the reason why is because we wanted to focus on who Israel is, right? That was our main thing. And I think right now, ain't no doubt who we are, right, Red? Don't need no more evidence, right?
Man, look at it's flooding everywhere. If people don't know by now, man, they tripping.
Yeah. So what I wanted to talk about, what I don't know how you want to kick it off, Red, but I was thinking, let's talk about some of the out of place artifacts. And then we can talk about Hyperborea and that whole thing and get into that, because what the image that I used on for the beginning of this show is that of the Antitheticator mechanism, right? And I'm gonna show that right quick, and we could discuss that. And if you have stuff you want to share, just let me know, and I could put it up, okay?
Yeah. I got a little. We can go through that. I got my little PowerPoint actually that I was working on, and I was like, I'll bring some in.
Okay, cool. So after we talk about this, we can go to your PowerPoint.
Okay.
All right. So this is the Antitheticator mechanism, right? They have let's see. I think it's down here, right here, a sort of modern make of it.
Yep.
And so, they call these out of place artifacts, right? Because they're out of place for the time that they're in. So the Antitheticator mechanism is an ancient Greek hand-powered orrery described as the oldest example of an analog computer used to predict astronomical positions and eclipses decades in advance. It could also be used to track the 4-year cycle of athletic games, which was similar to an Olympiad, the cycle of the ancient Olympic Games. This artifact was among wreckage retrieved from a shipwreck off the coast of the Greek island Antitheticator. I don't know if I pronounce it right, but that's how I pronounce it. On May 17, 1902, it was identified as containing a gear by archaeologist Valerio Stais. The device, housed in the remains of a 34 centimeter by 18 centimeter by 9 centimeter wooden box, was found as one lump, later separated into 3 main fragments, which are now divided into 82 separate fragments after conservation efforts. 4 of these fragments contain gears, while inscriptions are found on many others. The largest gear is approximately 13 centimeters in diameter and originally had 223 teeth. In 2008, a team led by Mike Edmonds and Tony Freeth at Cardiff University used modern computer X-ray tomography and high-resolution surface scanning to image inside fragments of the crust encased mechanism and read the faintest inscriptions that once covered the outer casing of the machine. I'm gonna stop right there, and I want to get your opinion on this right here, and we can go to your PowerPoint as well, Big Red. What's your thoughts on the Antitheticator mechanism?
It's not going to be what they say it is. It's definitely an advanced piece because those are machined gear parts. Like anybody that knows anything about machining knows that you need precise materials for that. Usually it's done by a computer aided design or CAD.
Yeah.
So that's not something you can do with just a knife or a what you call it, their favorite thing, the
chisel tools.
The chisel tools. Yeah, that's their chisel tools. And they love throwing everything at the Greeks because, you know, the Europeans got to insert themselves in everything. That thing's older than them Greeks. What people don't really realize is the Greeks inherited a lot of the buildings that they've been attributed to. They didn't build those buildings. They didn't build a lot of the stuff that they said that they did.
Yeah, we got to talk about that too, Red.
Oh, I got it. I got some stuff, man. I got some stuff on there. Let me see. Let me put this share the screen. Okay. And then actually, I'm just going to do the window of that one. There. And then let me go ahead and bring this sucker up to full screen so everybody can see that there.
Man, coming with the stuff.
Man, this is why, you know, it's before I even go into it, I want to preface it that, you know, it's like you said, we know that we the people and stuff, but I would advise all those out there who are study the word first. Yeah. Study the Bible first. Get into the word first and ground it in the word, because there's a lot of demonic pull in a lot of the stuff that you read from these things, because Satan is the same yesterday that he was too, that he was right here telling the same lie, trying to get us to come to him for wisdom. So get in the Bible first before you do that. I want to preface that with anything. But what we also have to realize is that the timelines that we've been told, the time that we tell right now, and a lot of the dates and the things that they attribute to people in the past are all just fabrications and lies. Yeah. Because when you really use your eyes and look at these things, and that's one of the things I really want, like, showing these pictures for, because when you really look at these things, it don't match what they tell you. It don't match what they saying. Like right here, we got CERN. Everybody know what CERN is up here. And then underneath that, you have a Mayan relief. This was for Quetzalcoatl coming back through the snake rope through, right, we see right here, which looks a lot like what they got going on in CERN. So that snake rope, if you take snake rope out and replace it with wormhole, then things start making sense. And they use snakes and they use animals a lot for their descriptions and a lot of things that we do now. See, what they've done through time is they've changed things from being like all under one roof and compartmentalize it. So just like how we look at as the lifestyle of what we do, the law is our lifestyle. Following Yahuwah is our lifestyle. It's not a religion. This is how we live. This is what we do. This is how our culture is ingrained into following Yahuwah. Their culture used to be behind these things. They used to teach, the fallen angels used to teach them these technologies and these secrets through the culture. So whereas we go to university now to learn, they will go to the temple to learn. Yep. They will go to the place of worship and the place of worship of temples to learn. There's a dude on YouTube called Praveen Mohan, and I like watching him because he takes the narrative away from all those Europeans. India is really one of the best places to learn about these old artifacts, because they're reclaiming their history back, just like everybody else, from the Europeans. Because the Europeans even tried to say that they came and they invaded the lands and they were in that land years ago, and that's why India has all the knowledge that it has. Like, they try to self-insert themselves in there, and that's not true. There's doctors out there that talk about it. They say, no, that's a lie.
The Indians got the Mahabharata. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know, but anyway, it talks about that in here. it talks about all this stuff right beforehand, and about space wars and all this type stuff. You know, go ahead, Red.
Yeah, man, it talks about all of that, and we see that all of this stuff right over here. Oops, I hit the wrong button. Right here, they got the rocket, and with these two guys here right next to that. I mean, it clearly looks like a rocket. Like, you can see that these were things that they were accustomed to seeing, and these are things that are on there. But they would have us think that they were just simple hunter gatherers with chisel tools and simple things. But we can see through a lot of stuff. I'm going to actually go into this next one here. We were talking about India. There was a dude back then called Agastya. He was a rishi, and he wrote a lot of writings back in that time. And what they used to do, see, this is what the fallen angels, a part of what was so ridiculous in what they did, is they self-inserted themselves into Yahuwah's creation. This is why this is such a blasphemy about what they did. They inserted who they were into Yahuwah's words. So whereas we say electricity, they'll say Mitra Varuna Shakti. because each one of those deities represents not only aspects of religious things, but they also represent things that we know of as science, what we are taught as science. So he would say in his writing, he said, take an earthen pot, place a copper sheet, and put the Shikigriva in it, then smear it with wet sawdust, mercury, and zinc. Then if you join the wires, it will give rise to Mitra Varuna Shakti. So what he was essentially doing is, this is a battery. This is also another battery that they had, like the Baghdad battery, which was similar to this. The Shikigriva, and this is an alchemist term. The alchemists used to write their terms in code. They used animals a lot, and animals and symbols was the main thing of their code. So that way a lay person wouldn't understand. So that Shikigriva means the neck of a peacock. So when the guys originally found it, they were thinking they had to get the neck of a peacock. So they went to the zoo to get like a peacock and stuff and told, hey, when your peacock dies, can we have it? And they're like, sure. And he went to talk about it. One of the dudes that were studying this actually came out like way back in 1990. And nobody, of course, America's not going to talk about it. They found this out in the 90s. And he went to talk to one of his guys that's basically a big study on the history of their scriptures. And he laughed at him and he's like, no, it's not the neck of a peacock. He was talking about copper sulfide, because copper sulfide is the same color, is like a blue-green color of the neck of the peacock. So when they put the copper sulfide in there, which is the copper, the CuSO right over there, CuSO4, it becomes a whole battery. And he even talks about putting it in series. He talks about electroplating. He talks about even on here about how there's even the things that they attribute to Newton. Years before Newton, they were already talking about the laws of motion. What goes in motion stays in motion. That any action and needs an equal and opposite reaction. All of these things were listed in their writings and in their teachings, but they just listed them with different names that we know.
So let me ask you, because the way I see it is, because from my research is, it was the elite and the high priest class that had these secrets. And like you were saying, they were in the temples. So the common man, they may have thought it was magic, right? And so this technology that they had, they spoke in code, like you were saying, with the peacock, just like we do today when we say H2O. When we could have said water, right? We say H2O. They use animals and stuff as references. Go ahead.
Exactly. No, that's exactly it. They have a very heavy caste system. It's like a pyramid. At the top you have the Brahmin. After that, I forget the name. They start with a K. There's another set of guys that start with a K. Those are the kings and the leaders. Then under that was the merchant class, and then under that was the workers at the very, 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 very bottom. So the top class were the Brahmin, and the Brahmin were the ones who worked within the temples and learned from the actual deities or the demigods or the sons of the fallen angels. And they kept that standard up even up until now, even though it doesn't carry the same weight as it did back then. So it's still the same thing that they were talking about. Here's another example. See, to us, we just think that this is just an example of a picture of fallen demons. Yeah. But this is actually a picture of an atom. To them. See, Shiva it has it listed here. Vishnu is pretty much the positive one, and Shiva was always chilling. He's always represented as he's described as sitting at rest. He's described as like, just laid back and chilling. And then when he gets up and gets into activity, then calamities happen. When he gets up and moves, and this one woman over here on the end, her name is what was her name? Starts with an R. What is it? Rudrani. Rudrani. Is that Rudrani? No, it's not Rudrani. I'm sorry. I cannot remember her name because her name becomes Shakti. She has two different names. But right now, when she's calm, she's the Rudrani girl. But when Shiva gets up and moves and she gets separated from him, then she gets active and becomes Kali. She becomes energy. She becomes violent. That's exactly what happens with an electron. When you have an atom and you separate that electron out, that's where you get electricity from. That's why the previous dude said he called it Mitra Varuna Shakti, because Shakti is a part of that energy. It was electricity. So this was literally a diagram of an atom. The dude that you see hanging on the lotus flower, that's Brahma, and Brahma was an electron, and he is attached to him via the lotus flower because he floats around. That's why it has that bend in it, because he like rotates around them like electrons rotate around the neutron. And then when Shiva gets up, that's when the energy occurs. And they use that even like you were saying in the Mahatabara, when they were talking about that, because they talk about nuclear energy. That's a common thing that they talk about. Even talk about nuclear sickness.
Yeah, when I first heard about the Mahabharata and that whole war that they had between the gods and the technology and how to fix the what they call it, the Vimana.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, I'm like, this was a repair manual here. You know what I'm saying?
They have diagrams of the Vimana, and the Vimana are just crazy. They call them Mercury. Literally, they call it Mercury Engines. And this is something that I've just been studying that they don't even talk about, like in engineering, about how amazing the electromechanical principles of Mercury are. Like you can do some amazing stuff with Mercury, but they don't talk about that. They don't really, go into that. And they don't go into it any deeper.
That's the hidden secret.
Exactly.
Just like with Tesla, right? They shut him down real quick.
Tesla learned from them. He learned from the Egyptians. The Egyptians were the same way. They have these things called lingams. The Shiva lingams is usually like a it looks like a teapot almost. You'll have the lip part that comes out like this, and then there's a little part that sticks up like that. Now these are just so clear that these are the fallen angels from Enoch, because every child wants to be like their daddy. And so how Yahuwah, just like you did with the 144,000, how you showed the imagery that Yahuwah used, they do the same thing, but they're just copycats of Yahuwah. So the lingam, number one, is a phallic symbol, and in a woman, it's just basically a symbol of perversion, because the bottom part is called the yomi, and I forget what they call this top part, but the yomi is also the name for the female genitalia that they have, and it's a symbolism of that. Also, they pour milk on it. Come on now. But there's also other parts to that as well. They also say it represents the universe and the balance of the duality of the universe. Again, with Shiva, this dude right here laying on this giant snake, the Naga. That's called a Naga, the snake with the multiple heads. That dude laying on that's his representation. And they say it represents also the equilibrium of the universe, just like this with the picture of an atom. So we see is just, these are just a fallen deity. This is crazy. But to them in the old days, they would look at this and understand that this is not only just a picture of those deities, this is also how the universe works. So this is how when they would say that Shiva is the universe, they meant that because the universe is made up of atoms and the universe is made up of electricity and vibrations. Electromagnetism is crucial to life on Earth. Like everything on Earth revolves around electromagnetism. From the whole reason why the sky is blue is because of electromagnetism, because of all the different gases in our atmosphere.
So let me ask you right quick. So some people are gonna say, well, why y'all teaching about this stuff? Why y'all teaching about these pagans and all their gods and all this stuff? And all I can say is this, right? You what you're hearing right now is science. That's what you're hearing phrased in a pagan terminology.
Exactly.
And so you have to see, that's why some of these things is for the meat level people, not the milk. Right, because you got to understand this is important to the days we live in right now.
Exactly,
and everything is being revealed that's been hidden. Go ahead, brother Big Red.
Nah, man, that you want it. That's it. That's exactly it. Because these things are coming back. They coming back right now. They're not the judgments that Yah is doing, but the nonsense that the governments of the world are doing. They're getting ready to terraform this earth for these things to come back. Then to return and take back what's theirs. And I'm going to show you what was theirs a while ago. It's funny. We were talking about how the Europeans are looking at stuff and seeing it wrong. I got a funny story when it comes to that. The next thing about these buildings and stuff. But these people, these creatures, they're coming back. These beings, these beings coming back to reclaim this earth. And it's important that we know what's going on and we know how the enemy works. Because if you don't understand these things, they will come in and fool you. They will come in and train. There's people that's going to see these things come back and do stuff, and they're going to think that they from Yah.
Yep.
They're going to think they angels from God. Oh, this is God. Oh, the rapture. This is messengers.
Or they going to think they're aliens, and so therefore they created mankind and seeded all the planets.
Exactly. That's already what they taught through a lot of it's so funny that syncretism has been the word of the day in the Hebrew community. Because I think more and more Hebrews need to learn this term. Syncretism started in Babel. because all of them, at one point, the Earth was all under one continent. That's what they talk about, the Pangea theory. But I like to call it Peleg, because I don't believe in Pangea. I don't believe in the round Earth. I believe in the flat Earth, as Yahuwah said it. It's in the Bible. When they talk.
Let me say this right quick. So I do believe in the flat Earth. Okay, I haven't talked about the flat Earth because I believe that it was more important for us to know who Israel was, and not get into the sidestep where, to me, it don't matter if it's flat or round, because it ain't gonna change my life.
Correct.
But guess what? The only reason it's important now, because you got to understand what's happening in these last days.
Yes, exactly. It's crucial that you understand that, because if you understand that there ain't no planets out there for you to land on, that there ain't no galaxies, then they can't fool you with some dudes landing down talking about something. Oh, we're from Alpha Prime and we're here to save y'all.
Exactly.
It's like, nah, bro, y'all here from that extra territory that's back there that the governments don't let nobody go back there to see, from them old lands of Hyperborea that they talked about. The dude was named Herodotus, and he talked about Hyperborea, and they said, oh, it's not real. But at the same time, they literally call Herodotus the father of modern history. This dude has so many accolades. He's the dude that they go to for history. But this little thing that he talked about, this little country called Hyperborea, oh, we're not. That's not real. That's not it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I even got Minister Tell on my side now on the flat Earth stuff, because before he was like, I don't know about that. But he on my side now.
When you read when you break down the word firmament, when Yah was talking in the beginning, if it was a globe, what is the firmament? Where does the firmament fit in the globe? Where does the corners fit in the globe? See, we got to stop. We got to get out of that mindset of what they taught us, because
come on now, Red.
It's not a spiritual thing. Oh, that's how, with Christians, everything is spiritualized, spiritual, and it's all just theory and mythology. No, Yah created four corners of the earth.
There's
now,
the physical and the spiritual.
Exactly. There's a spiritual part of earth and there's a physical part of earth. And even the old maps from other religions all show this. Like in the Norse mythology, they have the tree of Yggdrasil, and you have the Midgard here in our area, and then they have the underworld and different places in the underworld. And when you read Enoch, you see he takes trips through these places. He saw the procession of the stars. If the earth revolved around the sun, why would the stars process?
Let me ask you a question right quick, Big Red. So what's your thought on Yggdrasil, the tree of the Norse mythology?
There is, I believe, and it's something that I want to do a little more in-depth research into. So this is right now just opinion mode right now. But I do believe that in Hyperborea, there was a central zone, like a central place where our magnet poles is our central magnet pole, because they're talking about how our North Pole is moving. And that can happen if there was changes in that true magnetic north. And if like the top magnetic pole is moving, everything else that's magnetic is going to move along with it. So I do believe that there's a central point in the world where everybody says it's the same. It's like a big mountain, and they say it's hugely magnetic. A lot of the old the explorers said that they couldn't even get out with a ship made of iron, that you needed all wooden ships because the magnetic pull was so strong. And it was surrounded by 4 mountains, and there was 4 rivers that came out of it. We know that when Yah placed Adam east in Eden, 4 rivers came out of Eden. So there's something to it. I can't put it all together like perfectly to the point where I can like stand on it assuredly, but I do definitely believe that there is something to this true magnetic north in this Hyperborea place, where that's the center of our realm, the center of our world, and that's where all our magnetic activity comes from. They say it's a giant magnetic stone, and that's why Polaris, the North Star, sits right above it, and everything else revolves around it, which makes sense because as with magnetism, you have a toroid, or that magnetic field that comes out like this. Whenever you have magnetic fields, they rotate. Things rotate and change. This is why we have processions and seasons. That's why Yah said, let them be for a sign of the seasons. The sky is a clock. It's Yahuwah's clock. It's Yahuwah's time. As we change time.
What it is. Exactly.
That's why they change the time. That's why they change what we do and how we even follow time. We don't follow the clock no more. We on some nonsense now.
Exactly. And when you look at the rainbow, right? The rainbow is just like a dome, right?
Yes.
The Bible talks about the firmament, and it's like it all starts to add up and come together.
Exactly. All of it starts to come together. when you start studying and learning these things, it's so crazy because the more guys that I've seen, you know, there's a lot of dudes, Gentiles and whatnot. Some of them were stone cold atheists when they first started out. But as long as they start learning and figuring this out, they become believers. This is why they hide it. Because if you think that you're just some random person, just in some random number and some big crazy numbers and all the big crazy stuff that they throw out there at you, then what does it matter? This is why nihilism is so rampant amongst high thinking people, because they just know so much and like, oh, it doesn't matter anyways, because I'm just on this random rock in the universe that's steadily expanding with 5.9 billion, all these crazy big numbers that don't even make sense.
But when you find out that you live in a glass house, you know, what they call those for the flowers, huh?
Oh yeah, like a terrarium.
Like a terrarium. You find out you in a terrarium, right? And it was built for you with food and water and animals and all that stuff. You'd be like, okay, that means there's a creator.
Self-sufficient. Everything is self-sufficient. Even what they tell us that oil comes from fossil fuels. No, oil is made by the earth. Oil is a natural resource that reoccurs. But just like with diamonds, because again, diamonds aren't super rare. They just make the scarcity there because they want to come in and make money. That's all it is. If they tell you it's scarce, then they can jack the prices up on it and then you can pay more. So diamonds literally was pushed. This just goes to show, you know, it's when I tell people when they have a hard time understanding, if they would lie to Hebrews about your past, what else are they lying about?
Exactly.
If the news is a lie, what else are they lying about? Just about everything that they say is a lie. Diamonds of a girl's best have never been a girl's best friend. That was something that they created with Hollywood, who the Luciferians work with intimately, and started pushing this narrative. Now they got women out here talking about something. I won't get married unless I have a ring, and that ain't even what it was all about.
Exactly.
But it's right here what we were talking about, the Mahabharata, and they talked about the wars that they had, and this was the one that they had here: a single projectile charged with all the power of the universe, that's atomic power, an incandescent column of smoke and flame, as bright as 1,000 suns, rose in all its splendor, a perpendicular explosion with its billowing smoke clouds, the cloud of smoke rising after its first explosion, formed into an expanding round circles, like the opening of giant parasols. For those who don't know, parasols are umbrellas. And it was an unknown weapon, an iron thunderbolt, like a missile. A giant messenger of death, which reduced to ashes the entire race of the Vrishnis and the Andakas. These are the different versions of the fallen angels, demigods. They have, you know, there was all sorts of kind of angels came down and had all kinds of kids, and they all had different groupings and stuff. So they were all half angel, half god, in these big communities, and they were fighting with each other because that's.
Quick question. Have you ever heard about the in the book of Jasher, a strange alien-looking creature on Mount Seir? I never heard of that. That rode off on a stolen donkey.
No,
I've never heard of that one.
No, I haven't heard of that.
Let me know where that's at. I'm curious about that. And another question right there from Sister E. Do you think the Sumerians were the civilization that captured this info before the Egyptians? I mean, to me, I think all of this was pre-flood technology, and it carried over. What's your thought?
It's exactly it. It carried over. The Sumerians were the first ones that came about after the reset. They were the ones that came after the reset that reclaimed all this. Because if you look at who they say the Anunnaki were fishmen. And the fallen angels and all of them, they knew what was coming. All their kids, all of them, they knew that the end was coming. When you read Jasher, they knew it was coming. Noah came out, he was preaching about it. They had visions and dreams. Even their people were seeing the end was coming. So they knew it was coming. So they more than likely genetically engineered fishmen and fish women, because mermaids is out here is real. They try to say that they try to say that manatees were what people mistook for mermaids. Now, I live in Florida. I seen manatees, and I looked at the manatee, and I'm like, this dude must have been on some good drugs to think that looked like a woman. Because them things don't look nothing like no woman at all.
Yeah. And in the book of Enoch, like you were saying, the angels went to Enoch for him to intercede on their behalf so their children can live, because they knew it was coming. And it's the same thing. The Bible says the devil knows that he has a short time, right? And so now he's persecuting the woman, which is us, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's all tying together. And let me ask you this, Red. I saw this photo several years ago of a merman, and it was on the beach. Now, some people say it was fake. I'm like, if it was fake, it was a darn good fake. I mean, it really looked like a crusty, half dead fish man to me.
I saw that. I saw that. I saw that, and it did. It looked like a little half dead crusty fish. Yeah. I also saw another video with some dudes over in Europe. They were filming this weird looking thing on the rocks, and it looked like a whole mermaid. And it turned around and looked at them, and it jumped into the water real quick. And I'm like, I've gotten pretty good at spotting CG. Because I'm interested in it. I did it a lot, like with video and stuff like that. So I'm kind of good at spotting it. If that was CG, that was some amazing CG.
Exactly. Look, I'm not saying it's legit, but it sure look real.
Man, look, the thing looked real, and I tend to trust what I'm seeing, what our ancestors, these forebears, the humans who came before us, what they saw. They didn't write that. These weren't people who were unintelligent people. Longinus was another dude who came up with a lot of stuff that talked about what he saw with Hyperborea and how he saw these different creatures. And this man wrote a treatise about the sublime. That's what they called intelligence, the sublime. And his first paragraph was ridiculous. I mean, the brother was spitting. I'm like, this man is intelligent. How they gonna sit here and tell me that he was just sitting around somewhere just making stuff up when he was this intelligent to write this amount of stuff? It's like, no, they're lying. They are definitely lying. As I've shown you right here, this is we're going to talk about the cathedrals, where we're talking about those old civilizations. That's the one that kind of even goes into what everybody was talking about with these old civilizations. They've told us that a lot of these buildings and stuff that we see are Greco-Roman. They call them Gothic, and they have us to believe that these dudes in like 536 AD, 1000 BC, like the first power tool was built in 1895, and the power tool was a drill that had a front plate on it, and you had to hold on to it like this and lean on it to actually use it to actually drill one screw in. So this is the tools that they had in the 1890s. And now we know from just building regular houses. Imagine if you didn't have power tools. Imagine if they didn't have those nail guns and the drills and all the things that we use now. Like these things would be taking forever to build. Yeah. But they would have us to believe that these people who was in that time, they said this thing, Wells Cathedral, this is in Somerset, England. I just picked two places because literally they're all over the world. They're everywhere. They're in India. There's some of them in Africa. There's some of them here. There's one down. There's a college that we have down here in Florida. I went down there and looked at it. After I started learning about this, I just went there and just looked at it. And then I looked at the other buildings and I'm looking at it and I'm like, there's no way. There's no way.
They read. Let me read this right quick to you. Thank you. Blessings to you. I mean, this is interesting. I never saw this before. It says, this is Jasher 36, 30 to 35. And there was a day that he brought them to one of the deserts on the seashore, opposite the wilderness of the people. And whilst he was feeding them, behold, a very heavy storm came from the other side of the sea and rested upon the asses that were feeding there, and they all stood still. And afterward, about 120 great and terrible animals came out from the wilderness at the other side of the sea, and they all came to the place where the asses were, and they placed themselves there. And those animals from their middle downward were in the shape of the children of men. And from their middle upward, some had the likeness of bears, and some the likeness of the kephas, with tails behind them from between their shoulders, reaching down to the earth like the tails of Duchipta, I guess a cheetah. And these animals came and mounted and rode upon these asses and led them away. And they went away unto this day. And one of these animals approached Anna and smote him with his tail, and then fled from that place. And when he saw this work, he was exceedingly afraid of his life, and he fled and escaped to the city. And he related to his sons and brothers all that happened to him. And many men went to seek the asses, but could not find them. And Anna and his brothers went no more to that place from that day following, for they were greatly afraid of their lives. I've never seen that before. Thanks for sharing. What do you think of that? Because I mean, to me, some people are gonna say, well, that's why we don't read the book of Jasher, right? I mean, but
Jasher
then again,
is mentioned in Jeremiah, so
yeah, and then we hear how Enoch talk about them mixing humans with animals,
Jasher talks about it too.
I mean, do we believe these things or not? I'm just asking. You know?
Absolutely. I'm gonna show these buildings, and then I have another that's actually a little website that I found that talks about cryptids and all the different creatures. Again, these dudes that I was talking about, Longinus and Herodotus, and a lot of other great men, Plato, a lot of them that they talk about as great men and that wrote about history. They all talk about these creatures. They talk about griffins. They talk about they call them Arimospoi or Cyclopses, the men with one eye. They talk about the Scythians, which are basically humans that don't have a head. They're not humans. They're creatures that don't have a head. They have eyes in their shoulders and a nose in the middle of their chest and a face down there, but like that. They talk about.
I've seen that in cartoons.
Yeah, these is real creatures. They talk about humans that have ears that are super, super long, that they literally walk and they have their ears wrapped around. They talk about dog men that were dog faces and half dogs.
They were on the maps and stuff.
Yes, exactly. People think, oh, this is just mythology. That's what they drew, what they saw. Yep. That's what was there. There's a map. There's an old map where it talks about the extra territory, or they call it Terra Nueva, or new land, or new something like that. It translates to, and all in that land, like in all the regular lands of all the areas that we're familiar with, they have the regular animals that we're used to. But when it goes to that new land, that extended land that's beyond the poles, they start drawing weird stuff, weird monsters, half, centaurs and all the creatures like those ones that he was just describing right there in Jasher. These things were real. That's why, what's his name? Lot didn't want to go to the mountains. The church used to teach it like, oh, he was so in love with Sodom and Gomorrah, he just didn't want to go far away. No, he knew that in the mountains lived the giants, and they were flesh-eating giants. And that's why he said, I didn't want to go up there lest some calamity fall on me. Let me just go to this city right here. I don't have to go up there because it's crazy out there, and I ain't trying to go out there.
So when we finish your presentation, let's talk about the theories of where these people are and these beings are and where they went, okay?
Yeah, so in these buildings, a lot of things changed. If you look at right here, they say in the 1840s, an ambitious cleanup project started known as the Great Scrape, and much of the decoration was restored to its original glory. That's just code word for them coming in and changing things that don't look right. They changing stuff because they don't want us to really know what was there. But when you really look at these buildings, now they want us to believe that this was built in 1175 over like a couple of so many years. They didn't have drills. Yep. They didn't have power lifters. They didn't have any of the modern tools that they use now. Exactly. All they had was chisels, some, an abacus and some, some land. And they didn't even have the doggone trucks to pull the rocks and buildings up. But they expected they built this. I mean, when you really look at the symmetry and everything that they draw, they didn't have no computer aided design. Exactly. They didn't have none of that nonsense, but they were able to build these things with all this matching, all this is ridiculously beautiful. Yeah. When you really, really look at it, it's ridiculously beautiful. Why don't we make buildings like this now? Yeah. It's not practical to make buildings this ornate now. It's not practical. This is why you see the buildings, even the ones that are replicas and copies of this, they're far more simplistic. Yeah, they got facades on the front. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. That's all. Like these buildings are ridiculous. And then they want us to believe that this is a church. But then when we come up and start looking at some of the iconography, again, we're coming up into, like, remember how we talked about the Indians and how they hide the stuff with the deities? It's the same thing with these. See, these things were a celebration of the technology that they had. This was them celebrating their prowess because they were prideful. This is coming from the very angel that said, oh, I'm going to make myself like the Most High, and all the cats that followed him. So they're prideful. This is a symbol of their pride, of all the things that they've made, all these things that they created, all this stuff. You got the dragon here. You got all these different figures and stuff that they've created. And then this is also on the church. This is a church.
And how long would it take with the intricate carvings to even do that? I mean, it would take forever.
Look how detailed. Yep. Then this is up way high. This thing right here is right up here at the top. I don't know if you can see the mouse, but right up here in the top, in the tippy top there in the middle, that's where that guy is. Yep. That's where that thing is. This
all
right
a stone, all a stone, no facades.
Straight stone.
Yep.
All stone with iron rods and stuff in it. Like it's all solid building because they've lasted all these years. There's even some of these underwater that they find that still stand to this day because stone doesn't break down like metals do. So it'll last a whole lot longer. I mean, here you already see that there's some Christians that there's a timeline issue that's going on. Like in the 1800s, just like how we noticed that all our books started changing and all of a sudden we wasn't the people no more.
Yeah.
Same thing happened for history. It wasn't the only time. There's something that happened in the 1800s that is written out of history. And they changed everything. Like even the thing about the earth being round was starting to be taught in the 1800s.
Exactly. And with Tartaria,
yes,
they hit Tartaria, which was a massive empire over there in Asia.
Huge. It was almost all of Russia. It was all of Russia.
All the way to China.
Yes, exactly. A lot of them don't even believe the Great Wall of China was built by China. Because if you look at some of the ramparts, they're on the opposite side. And they try to say, oh, well, they did it so just in case they got over, they can go to the other side. The whole purpose of a wall is that they don't get over. Like, if they got over, then you got your army back there. Why did you need, no other castle is built like this, ever. No other wall is built like this. That's because it wasn't built by the Chinese. It was built to keep the Chinese out. It wasn't, they be lying about all this stuff because they don't want people to know that they're lying about our history. Some of these, some Christians that have actually woken up to this think that these things were built. They think that the lost timeline was Jesus came back, established his kingdom, and all these things got built, and then all of a sudden he gone now, and like we're, I guess, after that, like that's what some Christians believe when they come across
actually
this.
believe that.
They actually believe that.
Wow.
I've seen a couple people that say that, like, oh, I believe that, during that time they call it the mud reset, or during the time of mud. That there was a mud flood when Satan came back after he was allowed to roam the earth again, and we're in that time of him roaming the earth. It's foolishness. But when you look at this right here, it clearly sees that this would not be in the kingdom of Yah. This dude is clearly doing the satanic salute. Like literally, he looks exactly like the picture of Satan. Yep. So this lets you know that this was the Nephilim kingdom. This was from the time before the flood when they ruled all the earth. This is why when the earth was together, that's why you see it all over the earth, because they had an earth-wide kingdom. When in Jasher, it talks about Enoch being king of the sons of men. Enoch ruled over men for a time, and he taught them the ways of God. And he told them, hey, go to where the sons of men dwell and tell them if they want to learn knowledge and they want to know about Yahuwah, come see Enoch. Why would he say where the sons of men dwell instead of just saying go in all the earth? Because Yahuwah, when Yahusha, when he told us to go, he said go into all the earth and preach the gospel. So he didn't say go where humans live. He said go into all the earth. So that just lets you know that there were places that we didn't live because these things was up there. These creatures was hanging around and doing their thing, and they ran the earth, and they were the ones that were doing it. I mean, you look at all of this, again, this is the inside. This is the roof. Who puts this much effort into a roof?
Exactly.
Chisel and a hammer. Chisel and hammer. Again, chisel and hammer. All of this stuff with chisel and hammer. And there was another one, the Canterbury Cathedral in England. Oh, and this is this is showing how they changed stuff. The one on the left, they actually replaced the old ones that were there and put the Queen of England and what's his name, Prince Philip. They put them up there. So those are
you can tell it's new.
They put them up there as like recent additions. Just again, the pride of these people is just so ridiculous. But again, the thing to the next, this little crazy, weird looking stuff that they say that, oh, this was built by Yahuwah's kingdom. But all of this stuff ties into like alchemy. All of this stuff ties into those different symbols. That's why you have a lot of like lions and chimeras on them, because the lion would represent gold and the eagle, I forget what the eagle represented. I want to say Mercury, but the lions represented gold. And all the things that it represented went into electromagnetism. They had an understanding of electromagnetism at a high level. Like that's pretty much the key to unlocking so many secrets in this world, like anti-gravity, where they talk about these UFOs that they be seeing flying around and stuff like that. All of that's electromagnetism. The government has a patent out for it. It's called an inertial mass reducer. You can look it up on Google. It's been out since 2018, and it's a triangle-shaped device that basically resonates at certain microwave frequencies and creates a void around the hull of the ship. So if there's a void around your ship, the inertia and the laws of physics don't apply to you no more. You don't have lift, you don't have drag, you don't have to worry about these things anymore. So that's why these things can move underwater and come out of the water and then go in all these crazy directions that everybody says that they see them in, because lift is not a thing. They have a void around them. And this is all this old technology that these angels had. They talked about it in the Varunas, the Indians, the old Indians talk about that. The what they call them, the Vihamas, those aerial ships. They used to call them Mercury engines. They said you put a Mercury engine in it, and then you can just take off and then go from there.
Yeah, the Mercury vortex engines, right?
Right, exactly, exactly.
So let me ask you right quick, Red. So if you notice, a lot of those entrance ways are very, very high. So, and the Bible talks about these, how the giants ruled over mankind, and they became so hungry, you know, when they couldn't eat the animals no more, they started eating humans, right? So would you say that these ancient architectures were the castles of the Nephilim kings that ruled over mankind?
Some of these, I'm actually kind of agreeing with some of the theories I've been seeing with some of the other guys, because it kind of matches up. These buildings in particular were probably either, some of them may have been castles, but a lot of them were power plants, the way they were designed. And then I can actually kind of show that with that next slide. Oh, that's also another thing that they had going on, all kinds of perversion stuff. This is to show that those angels, this is on the church, by the way. This is on the church, you know. So this was made by a church. So yeah, this just goes to show that this was their perversion. This is what's called a cavity magnetron. We literally have one in every one of our microwaves. But this thing, I feel like we're not even using a fraction of the power of this thing than what it does. It first was invented, well, they first had access to it around World War II. They used it for radar and stuff like that. And then after the war, they started using it for more home applications, and that's what it ended up in our microwave. But when you look at the designs on these mirrors and stuff, on these these windows that they filled in, it matches what you see, even how it has the circle. See, what happens in a magnetron is there's a filament in the center, and that filament gets heated up with electricity, and the electrons start flowing out of it. And there's a magnet around. This is like a copper plate here, and they put a magnet around it. And when you put the two permanent magnets around it, it makes that magnetic field, and it causes the electrons to spin, because that's what magnetic fields do. It causes electrons to spin. So as they spin, they bounce around in these cavities. And as it bounces in those cavities, it creates microwaves. And then you can start using the microwaves for however you want to do. Like we use it to warm up our chicken. Literally, when you go to warm up your chicken, this is what you're doing. You're sending this magnetron is working. That fan is in there cooling down this thing that's in there, and it's shooting up those microwaves, and they're shooting it in there and exciting the electrons in all your food and making it warm up. That's the basics of it. But these things, they celebrate the magnetism. That's why you see here, it has the swirl, which is the same direction the electrons take when you put it in the magnetism. And
let me show you something right quick, Red. I want to get your opinion on this, and I'll put it right back. Okay. See these doors?
Yes.
You know, I was thinking these were the ruling Nephilim castles. That's why all these doors are so big. Just wanted your thoughts on that.
Yeah, in St. Petersburg, they have a lot of giant buildings. See, in the other areas, these I believe are pretty much more like a power grid. Because even when you look at the blueprints for them, they match these things perfectly. There's symmetry, and it has to match. This is why when you go in and you look at these different roofs and whatnot, they have symmetry in them. You see, where's that roof at? Right there. There's symmetry all up in the roof. Everything matches. When you go all in the ceilings and whatnot, everything is a symmetry. It's a matching thing. In Russia, though, there's like St. Petersburg, and really, honestly, in all the areas that the old maps used to call Tartaria, you see a lot of buildings like that. Just have these huge doors. There's huge architecture, huge steps. Those could definitely have been old residences, old buildings, whatever they were used for at that time. But they're so huge, it's clear that they weren't made for a human.
Yeah, exactly.
They're huge. They're huge steps. Even these buildings, they're huge. They're way bigger. When you look at the humans, the dude, you see, I think there's one where you had like the guy, that picture I had with the guy at the gate, or even right here, you can see this person. They're kind of in dark a little bit by the front of the gate, but they're small compared to the rest of the gate. And mind you, they've done restorations on these buildings. So that whole archway at one point was one big open door. They've changed it stuff a little bit, so it's a little bit different than it was before. But these everything in these places, all the openings, all the doors are way oversized. They're way bigger than what normal people should be dealing with and should be going through. And this is something that they've consistently done, through the years, is by putting all that stuff in there. I think we were talking about those creatures. I'm gonna pull up. Let me see if I can find. I'm gonna pull up one of my old study tabs here. Creatures of Hyperborea, and I want to share this one so people can see the. I want to share this one too. Share this one. Right here. I'll share the whole screen. So this guy right here is I'm gonna go to, I'll go to this guy. This one here. This one has a lot of them. Let me get the translation in. This was in Spanish. So this is what Herodotus was talking about. These were the Cyclops men. They drew what they saw. The creatures with one eye.
Who, Herodotus?
Herodotus, exactly. He talked about them. They used to ride horses and fight the Griffins for gold. The Griffins stayed over there in Tartaria, and the Griffins protected the gold. But these guys would ride their horses over there. They were known as expert horsemen, and they would go steal the gold from the Griffins. This was all in Tartaria. So all that was happening in the Tartar area. Isn't
Herodotus supposed to be the father of history or something like that?
He's the father of modern history.
But they want to ignore all of this stuff, right?
It's right here. Another story runs on this point between Greeks and barbarians alike. Aristeus, a native of Proconesius, son of a certain Caestrobio, and a poet by profession, said that by inspiration of Phobos, he had gone to the Isodones, beyond which he added that the Arimaspos, that's these Cyclops, lived, men with one eye in their faces and beyond. Of these are the Griffins, who guard the gold of the country, and the Hyperboreans inhabit even the shores of the sea. All these nations, according to him, except only the Hyperboreans, were always at war with their neighbors. And that goes back to what Yahuwah said, even in Enoch, where he said, your children will not have peace. He told the fallen angels, your kids going to be fighting forever. Yep. They always going to have infighting. There will be no peace in between them. And they had to sit there and watch them fight. All those stories we hear about Zeus and the wars, and even in the Indians, and how all the gods is fighting each other. It's always like, they always fighting each other. That's why Yahuwah put the enmity in them, where they basically killed each other off.
So can you explain to the family what Hyperborea was?
Hyperborea was a land that they said was beyond the Arctic poles. There's land that's actually beyond the Arctic. Again, they teach us the globe to hide these things. There's actually, when they say extraterrestrial, that's actually truthful, because terrestrial means territory. There's extra territory that's out there. I forget the dude's name. It was called Operation High Jump, where they sent a whole bunch of just
Admiral Byrd.
That's him. They sent the whole fleet down there to go investigate Antarctica. And I'm talking about they sent the whole army. If you just doing an investigation, why are you sending, they sent the army. They sent a gang of stuff down there.
Now that's a trip. They want to say it was to go and spy out the area, right? Because of climate and all that stuff. Is a research project, but they had battleships and planes and all this stuff going out there.
They had like 3 carriers. They had multiple. They took the whole fleet. They came down there ready to throw down. Yep. And Admiral Byrd came back, and they asked him. They said, "Well, now that we've investigated, it's how Europeans talked back in those days. Well, now that Admiral Byrd, now that we've investigated everything in the ice continent, do you think there's anything out there for all these young aspiring kids to explore?" And Byrd was like, "Yeah." He's like, "There's a whole set of territory out there that no human is actually setting land on, and it's going to be very exciting for us to go and explore it."
So since we're on this topic, let me ask you this, because my brother and I talk about this all the time. So our theory is that, and have been for a while, that there's unknown continents out there that we are not allowed to see, right? And that's why there's an international treaty for the Antarctic, because it's an unknown continent. And that's why I believe that these Nephilim offspring are with their fallen angel daddies.
Mm-hmm. There's this joint right here. Hold on, let me I'm gonna bring this over real quick, and then I'm gonna show it. Hold on. There's a quick little video that let me see. I think this might be it here. Yes. So there's a strong theory out there. This theory, I'm sorry, hold on, my phone is ringing. This theory has been one actually that there was I forget this other gentleman's name. It was around the time when they were going to the moon, and one of these scientists came out and he was like, no, it's impossible to go to the moon. The moon is a plasma phenomenon. We can land on all the other planets. Yeah, Forrester. Yeah, he came out and he was like, oh, yeah, you can land on the moon. We can't land on the moon, but we can land on everything else. This is what the Luciferians do. It's called controlled opposition. They've been doing it with the Democrats and Republicans for years. They all on the same team. They just play. It's a play. It's a skit that everybody sees and they get to be like, oh, look at this. But it's all fake. It's all controlled. Because if you want to control something, be on both sides. They did it with the wars from World War II and all that. This is what they do.
Same thing with civil rights.
Exactly. The first president of the NAACP was a white dude.
Yeah.
People shocked that the doggone ACLU just got its first black president.
Yeah.
It's controlled opposition. If you think that they do it on the macro level like that, why would they not do it on the big level? The micro, on the macro level. They do it on the big level as well. So there's a lot of theories out there, which one that I'm actually agreeing with is somewhere along in history, somebody did something to the moon that made it do this. And I'm going to put this on here and just kind of let it play a little bit. I'm going to have the music play, but just let this person kind of show what's going on and what they got going on. And it's crazy. It's absolutely, it blew my mind the first time I saw it. So what they did was they took a picture of the moon and inverted it. And now they're coloring it in to give you clarity, to let you see that somebody did something to the moon that put like an imprint on it. Because if it's a plasma phenomenon, you can technically do it with magnetism. It's like an X-ray. And it shot up off the firmament and shot like a picture of the land. And so you can literally see a map, an accurate map of all our lands, of what we have and where we're going on. All the different lands and stuff right there. All this stuff is where it should be. What they show us in the map is right there on the moon. But there's also another part too. Like here it is all on there. And again, the Bible talks about this where it talks about this dude named Peleg. And they say he was named, his name means separation because the lands was all connected around the time of Babel. And after Yah separated their language, the land started to separate. And that name Peleg, when you break it down into the Hebrew, it's irrigation terms. It means to dig in with water. It means to separate. This is when Yahuwah brought the separation to get them away from us because he knew what was going on. And he's like, nah, I'm not going to let y'all have y'all way again. I'm going to bring about a separation. And so they're showing you all the different places in the map. But then let me come out here and see if I can get it to where they have it. Here it is. No, I'm gonna go back to where he had the one big one. So you see right in here, all the little sections down here, if you can see my mouse moving, that's our known world. That's what we know of, all the land masses that we know of. But then there's all this out here. What's all this? What's all this extra area out there, which goes in line with what Admiral Byrd said, that there's an extra territory that's out there. It also lines up with now, if you go into the news, you won't be able to find it in the mainstream news. You got to go to other sources. I use like WEON, World is One, the RT, Russian news, and Al Jazeera. Those are pretty much my go-to guys. Russia and America and China and every nation is running to the Arctic now because it's melting. And they building bases out there like crazy. What are they doing? If this is not legit, they know something's out there. Because this just blew my mind. This is a whole set of territory. They building out there in the Arctic, and then you literally got this dude, Admiral Byrd, that says, yes, there's extra land out there. They tried to say he went inside the earth. No, it wasn't inside. It was out here on the outer territory. That North Pole area that they're talking about was just the Arctic, it's basically like an Arctic shelf. And after Admiral Byrd went out there and they did their exposition, they came back and immediately there was a treaty started that every nation signed.
Exactly.
When have you seen every nation agree?
And you have to get permission to go out there, and you can't fly directly there. You got to go to Christchurch first in order to get there.
You can't go out there by yourself. If you go out there, they literally have a military garrison out there to keep people from going out there, and you have to get permission to go.
Yep.
Why is it so cut off? Why won't they just let people go out there and take a look at it?
Because that's where your true rulers are ruling from.
There you go. There you go.
They're called the fallen angel and their offspring.
That's it. That's where the Hyperboreans and all the people from Tartaria spread back to. Yep. We even know that Tartaria was in the area with all the Russians and stuff, because even today there's parts in Russia where they celebrate Gog and Magog. They literally run around their village with giants. Yep.
And here's the funny thing: if you look even from a flat Earth viewpoint, the mass of the Earth is way bigger than 7 continents.
It's way bigger than that. Way bigger than that. There's a lot more land that's out there, and there's a lot more going on in the realm that they want us to know about, because that's where all these creatures are, and they want to come back. They want to come back to the land that they had before. They want to come back and rule over here. I'm not sure. Like, I'm still researching and seeing like how the weather conditions and stuff are, but all I know is that as he's showing those red lines, those are like what we call our equator, the Tropic of Capricorn, and all those things, which actually those are named wrong, but that's a whole nother conversation. But it's saying that our magnetic North Pole is moving. They're even talking about that. You can look that up. They say that our North Pole is moving, and they're trying to blame it on climate change. No, this is the natural procession of our realm. The Earth is a giant clock that moves from different seasons.
Yeah. So if we say, as in the days of Noah were, and we know what was happening during the days of Noah, right?
Yep.
Then if we take that to its full conclusion, then it's going to be not only mixing of one species with another, but it's going to be involvement with the fallen angels and their offspring, right? I'm just asking.
That's exactly what's coming back. That's exactly what it was. And all this land, they're going to introduce this. They go, oh, hey, look, it's all, they're going to tell people that they're going to be taking them to another planet, and they just taking them across the world. And they're going to think that they're in a whole nother world.
So, Ray, can you answer this question here on the screen?
I do believe that they're trying to do it. I believe that that's what Babel was all about. Because if you remember, Satan's biggest decree was, I will be like the Most High. I will ascend into heaven, and I will sit there and be like the Most High. He wants to get up through the firmament.
And didn't they shoot like the first nuclear missiles up at the firmament to try to break it?
They shot bunches of missiles up there. Yep. Bunches. It's funny because I remember seeing a video with a dude showing some clips from Hillary Clinton, and she talked about the glass ceiling. She was trying to refer to it as like the feminist glass ceiling, but it didn't make sense because she was like talking like higher. She said, oh, it's a big glass ceiling up there, and we've been trying to break through it. It's got a lot of cracks, but we're getting through it just yet. That's double talk. They be double talking. Like that's what, that's Lucifer. That's what they do. They put truth in a lie. Yep. And then if you speak double talk like that to a regular person, they think she's just talking about some socioeconomic issue. She's literally talking over their heads and laughing at them at the same time. That's what they love to do. This is why they put it in movies. This is why they put it on TV. They put it in front of you every day because they're mocking us. They call us useless eaters and ignorant because people don't use their eyes and they will just trust a lie. Their brain will try to like, oh, well, no, it's the moon. And oh, this is crazy. Because you're being taught this all your mind. So the programming kicks in instead of being able to say, you know what? I'm going to investigate this. I'm going to look into this and see more about this. And you can line it all back up into the word. Y'all talks about all of it in the word.
And we see that mind control and conditioning today because about things that are happening today, right? People don't want to go do their research and investigate, right? And it's like all the information there and they give it to you, but they're like what they used to say about black folks. If you want to hide it, put it in the book.
Put it in the book.
But that's really for all of humanity, right?
That's really it. That's because this theory of the earth being a plasma phenomenon is old. It's not new. It's been an old theory. When you research back in the day, they used to find giant bones in America like every day. Every other day, somebody was digging up a giant with red hair, some giant with an oblong head. The Indians, the natives have stories, or rather the old school Russians, I should call them, because they're descendants of the Russians. They talk about fighting giant man-eating creatures and stuff like that. This is a known thing. This is not nothing that's hidden. You can look and find old newspaper archives of actual newspaper articles with pictures and them talking about a dude going in his yard and digging up a compost heap and finding bones, giant bones.
Yep. And the Smithsonian came out and it all disappeared.
It all disappears. Every time they come around, nothing, it just all goes away. Everything just disappears and gets real quiet. There's people that have had encounters with like wolfmen creatures. There were two men on opposite sides of the country that said the same story, that they saw this weird creature and they called the police, and the police came with essentially these men in black. And then they pulled out this weird device that had like a big radar dish on it, like a giant radar gun. And they started walking around shooting it. And their dogs started freaking out and foaming at the mouth and rolling around. And they're like, hey, what you doing to my dog? And then the dudes would stop and just go off into the forest. They know these creatures exist. That whole thing with like, what's the dude? Well, there's a movie about a dude who fights creatures. What's that movie? He fights monsters and whatnot. But pretty much all those movies, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, all these monster fighters and stuff, that junk was real. That's what David and all of them were. David and them fought giants on a regular basis. That's what they were fighting. They were fighting the Anak, the Hittites, and all these different folks. They were sons of the Nephilim. They were the descendants of the Nephilim. They were huge, and the land was abnormal because remember, when they came back with the grapes, two of them had to hold the grape stalk. They had them on a stick that two of them had to hold. They were still doing some of the same experiments and some of the same stuff that was going on. This is why Yahuwah brought them down.
You telling me Men in Black was real?
Hey, again, they put it to you in plain sight. They said they just show aliens from outer space, but they was really extraterrestrial creatures. Because I used to think dudes was crazy when they were talking about like reptilians and all that kind of stuff. But there's literally it's a story. It's called Shapeshifter. It's an old antiquity story talking about creatures that shifted shape. Angels are shapeshifters.
Exactly.
That's why Yahuwah said, "Be careful when you entertain strangers. You might entertain angels unawares."
Yep.
They're shapeshifters. This is why in Sodom and Gomorrah, they weren't shifted as they came as their natural selves, and they knew who they were, and they wanted to sleep with them because they knew what type of creatures they were. They were familiar with those type of creatures because they dealt with them on a regular basis. It wasn't as they were just so horny and just so, we just want anybody, because if they would just want anybody, they would have took Lot when he walked out. Nah, they wanted them angels. And that's the same thing that's going to come back now. That's the same thing that's going to return. Because in Noah's time, it talks about in Jasher how women used to drink droughts to not have kids so that way they can maintain their bodies.
Yep.
That sound familiar?
Yep. Exactly. Nothing new under the sun.
Nothing new under the sun. It talks about how they taught them makeup and how to make themselves look nice. The gentleman Praveen Mohan, that I love his channel. I highly recommend everybody go to his channel and look at stuff because he breaks down a lot of things that in India that don't make sense with the timelines. And he points it out and brings a lot of good scientific facts to it. And there's statues in India of women putting on lipstick. There's whole statues of lipstick and all that kind of stuff. All this stuff matches up with scriptures and what y'all was saying and what y'all told us. Like, if you could always, this is why I always tell everybody, bring it back to the scriptures, because the scriptures got everything. Yah talks about it all. He talks about it all in there. We just got to get that Christianity out of our brain and start looking at it with the eyes of Yahuwah and stop looking at it the way they told us how to look at it.
Yeah, it's hard to break that conditioning though. But if you start looking at the Bible the way it words itself and not the way people interpret it for you, you'll start seeing the same thing.
Exactly. This is again another one of those cathedral buildings that's so-called a church that was built by these old, Christians. What is this? What part of Christ is that? This is they call these monopods. They have one leg with a big giant foot over it, and they say that Herodotus says they would lay down and they would use their feet to cover themselves from the sun. That's why they always draw them like that. This is again another creature that when you come back, here it is right there. You have another creature right there. They call them monopodals. That's what it was. The same creature that Herodotus talks about. And here it is in this church over here, a whole carving of this creature.
And that's why, to me, when you look at anime, right? Anime tells you that the Catholic Church really is a mystery school religion. They're like high level, for lack of a better word, witches, right? Or warlocks, right? No, and they're high level in the occult.
Big time. The cap that they wear. It's so fun. I used to always wonder why they used to put that stupid fish and then put Jesus in the fish. Like, no, y'all ain't never like, no, that was for all these water spirits. Yep. That comes from all them water demons. That's why they have such a big habitation, because after the flood, they made their habitations in the water. These are water spirits that were coming up that they're talking about. That's why they have that fish hat that they wear with the open fish hat. That's even the same hats that the old Sumerians used to wear. They show the old Sumerian priests wearing like a fish garb with the fish mouth open up the top, just like the Pope's hat.
But they tell you that little jewel around your neck means because Jesus was a fisher of men. When he never told you to make any images or idols or anything. See, we got to go back to that word.
Yep. Never said make an idol. You have Christians giving out birthstones. All this stuff is witchcraft. All of this stuff. This is where syncretism comes in, because see, they have this tied into a church. A lot of these things that they do in these Catholic buildings, these so-called cathedrals, these are rituals. These are old. There's it shows the Catholic priest walking with that incense and he be swinging it. The Indians do the same thing. The Brahmin, they walk around swinging the blessings around the Shiva Lingam with a incense thing, and they swing it just like the Catholic priests do. This is that syncretism that we really need to learn. We need to realize that a lot of things that we have is our culture, our demonic traditions that have been passed down through Babylon that we got to get rid of and just not want to be a part of no more. That's what learning all this stuff will do. Because as you learn it and you see it, then you can recognize that this ain't got nothing to do with the Bible. This creature is one of the fallen beings' creations. They ain't got nothing to do with creation. So if something comes up and they start bringing these things around, most folks will be like, oh, this is probably a holy angel. Oh, because they're so ignorant of God's word, they'll accept these very crazy, weird creatures. Like these things were.
Say, Ray, was that Mr. Bill I just heard?
Exactly. Oh, Mr. Rapture. Oh. Exactly. That's exactly it. And then this was just a list of all the weird creatures that they saw. This was a hermaphrodite. They literally saw, look at the fingers on it, how the fingers are elongated. When you look at some of the skeletons of the giants, you'll see fingers that were long like that. Like they were mixing DNA and doing all kinds of weird stuff. We even see some of these genetic disorders. Notice in some of the areas that they come from, in a lot of areas where a lot of these weird genetic disorders is because some of that seed is still, some of that DNA is still getting passed down. There was a thing I just shared on Facebook about a whole family in South America. They got 6 hands and 6 toes, and they celebrate, and they all happy, and they all proudly wave their hands, showing off their 6 hands and toes, and just had a new baby with 6 hands and 6 toes.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like this stuff is coming back. All these type of weird creatures that you see. This was the one I was talking about. The one that no head, but it got the face inside the body. This is the stuff when Yahuwah said that the angels perverted the earth and they sinned against the earth. This is the kind of mess they was doing. And some of it is like, you can see their sick sense of humor in a lot of stuff. It's crazy as I'm looking at it. Because literally the Shiva Lingam, like I was talking about before, it's literally like a potty joke put in like reality. It's like when you used to get the old human growth and development books and somebody write, go to page 10, and you go to page 10 and just so you can see like, a naked chest or, genitalia or some, childish, stupid nonsense. Some of this mess that they doing all feels like that. There's another one. Born all the eyes. It has like a bunch of eyes all around his face. Some of these deities, even in the Sumerians, they draw them with multiple faces. I think one of Ea Enki, he's one that had multiple faces. All this stuff is things that they created. These weird creatures that's coming back.
Yeah, somebody asked if you have books and stuff you can recommend for them to read and research this stuff.
I would recommend the Bible.
Yeah, that is true.
I totally recommend Bible. It's like I said in the beginning. This is the stuff I've been in the Word since I was young. My mom raised us in the Bible. You know, I've been fed the word since a young age, you know, had a very good understanding of the word. So when I woke up, you know, around 2018 to, you know, being Hebrew fully, because I kind of had an inkling, you know, I was always Hebrew and stuff like that. We had inklings. It was all little stuff like that. But it really wasn't until then that Yahuwah really kicked me out the door with it, that then I was able to read the Bible and understand a lot of things that I used to have questions about, because I was always interested in science and all these type of things. Me and my mom would always talk about the different things. We would talk about quantum physics and all this kind of stuff, but the Christian veil would just keep you from seeing the truth. The Bible has all what you need to know. Let Yahuwah guide you. Don't just go looking into this stuff. Learn the truth so you can spot the lie. That's what I would tell anybody. Learn the truth first, and then let Yahuwah lead you.
And read the book of Enoch.
Yes.
The first one, not the second.
Enoch, yeah, the first book of Enoch is good. Jasher is another one, because Jasher goes into detail about a lot of stuff too. Talks about Enoch and a lot of things that are going on. It talks about a lot of that stuff in there. Definitely read into those books and read into stuff about that. Dante Fortson too. Dante got books about like lion men in the Bible. He got books about angels. I would definitely recommend Dante's books. Dante was had a good set about it. That's why I kind of like started getting into him, because nobody talks about this in the church. Like that was like the taboo thing, and they used to teach that I didn't even know this was a thing, that some folks was even teaching that the angels, the sons of God, were the Seth and their sons and stuff. And I'm like, how would there be giants then, and how would it be pervert? Like that don't even line up. Like it's that nonsense Christian thinking. So definitely,
exactly.
Definitely.
Dante been fighting that a long time, way back in the day.
Oh yeah. I saw some of the age on his books. I'm like, that's what's up, because you know I didn't know many other people that was talking about that kind of stuff. Like a lot of cats be, just focus on the gospel. All that matters is Jesus. Focus on the gospel.
You know that's what they're gonna say, right, Red?
That's always what they say. That's always, but see, this is for such a time as this, because God, y'all said, as it was in the days of Noah. We hitting those days.
We are in those days.
we passed that. I really feel like we so close to the. I mean, dude, Obama talking about. Remember about 5 years ago, if you talked about UFOs, they're like, "Oh, you crazy? Oh, you stupid? Oh, conspiracy theory." You got Obama talking about it. You got current military generals talking about it. Usually it's always that old general that's writing the book, that's trying to get stuff on his book, that's talking about it. No, you got dudes that's serving right now talking about it. Like
this is Blavatsky's externalization of the hierarchy. They're letting you know who the rulers of the world is, and it's not Yahuwah in their mind. We know who the true king is, but there's somebody who rules the wicked, and that's Satan.
Absolutely. They're being exposed. So this is why a lot of their stuff, like that whole Pizzagate thing that came out a little while ago, showing all the demonic, Luciferian, satanic ritual abuse and stuff that they doing. Like they understand this from these creatures. This is how they do that adrenochrome, where they put fear into children and then consume them and drink their blood for youth. How they do all this nasty, demonic, weird stuff because they're learning from their father, Satan, and all his little homie demons. It's not just him. He said he took a third of heaven. And on top of the third that came with them, the watchers that were placed, they were supposed to be the watchers. That's as they were said. They were supposed to teach and they were supposed to guide. And instead of doing that, they wanted to get all handsy and come in. And it wasn't just about lust. It wasn't just about them wanting to just get some, human stuff. It was about them wanting to be like God. Because what Yahuwah did was breathe his life into us. We are expressions of his life. That's why his name, Yahuwah, he who breathes life. Yahuwah is like that vibration of life that flows through us. And they wanted to imitate that, which is why they started creating all these creatures. They wanted to come in and have their creation and have their thing.
And Israel was involved with all this as well, because Israel was weeping for Tammuz in the temple at nighttime, right? And it's the same thing today. We got some Israelites who here, you think they're for you, but they're behind the scenes weeping for Tammuz.
They around here, you calling on a zombie instead of calling on Yahuwah.
Exactly. But look, man, you know what they're gonna say? They're gonna say, well, that's what we call them. We call them in zombie. That's who we call God. That's what they say. Well, that ain't his name. It's sort of like what they did with us. They took out Yahuwah and they replaced it with God, generic. Right? It's the same thing with you all in the Congo. They didn't replace the name of Yahuwah with Nzambi.
Yep, that's exactly it. It's just that syncretism. They've hid Yahuwah and his worship underneath all this demonic nonsense. You got people talking about something. Jesus is the reason for the season for this nonsense of Christmas. Christmas is so demonic, bro. It don't even make no sense.
Yeah,
it's straight up demonic.
Look, I was just talking to somebody yesterday. He know who he is, and we were just talking about, which I didn't know. He shared with me. You know the movie The Purge?
Yeah.
During Saturnalia, they used to allow the purge. There was on Saturnalia, you could go around and do whatever you want, rape, kill, pillage, all this stuff. I didn't know that.
I knew they used to run around. They used to have dudes that used to wear oh no, that was Lupercalia. Never mind. No, I didn't know that during Saturnalia. No.
Yeah.
Because I know in Lupercalia, during Valentine's or Lupercalia, they would wear wolf costumes and run around and like slap women on their bums to be like, you know, you get more fruitful good luck. And then they would pair off young boys and young girls and let them go off and do all kinds of nasty, freaky stuff. Like this is the same thing that was happening even during Saturnalia. They was doing, except it was more same gender stuff going on during that time,
man. And it just so happens that's being pushed, you know, real bad.
If people that still think about Christmas, ask them about mistletoe and what the mistletoe represent. What part of God is that?
Exactly.
When you look at mistletoe and when you break it open and look at the substance that come out, and why do you kiss underneath it? And it says that your relationship is going to be good. Look into the history of mistletoe and see the kind of nonsense that you want to see. These things bring on spirits. Yep. People don't understand. These things are these creatures and the fallen, like the Zeus and the all these fallen demigods, they became the demons that we know of today. These spirits. This is why y'all say they roam around looking for rest, because they know what it was like to have a body and they want to experience these things again. So they will use you and jump up in you and do all this nonsense. So it's important that we understand these things and where they come from, because you have to know your enemy if you're going to know how to fight them.
Exactly.
It's very, very serious. We really in these times, man. I'm really halfway just waiting to wake up one day to be like, oh, alien life has finally come and visited us.
Oh no!
Yeah, exactly. Oh, look, everybody! Inky has come back to save us, and and even the way that they portray these stories, you can see the deception in it, because it's the same thing, and this is where the syncretism comes in. Yeah. Ea Enki was the good god. There was another god above him that was like the supreme, and Enki wanted to teach humans science, and he wanted to bring them up from their animalistic state. This is what they say. And because Enki brought humans up, this big mean god came in and caused problems, and then, you know, kicked Enki out and made Enki a outcast and stuff, because he just wanted to help humans because he was just so good at heart. That same story is changed in Prometheus. Prometheus gave humans fire, which is technology, which is knowledge. And he was kicked out as a result of this, and yet suffered a cause of it. It's the same thing. Yep. These ain't different beings. This ain't different stuff. It's the same thing. They just try to make people think it's different. Oh, it's different. You know, oh, it got an African sound too. Oh, it's ocean now. No, it's different. It's ocean. No, it's still Inanna. No, it's still the same spirit from way back in the day. She's that same thing. It's still Aphrodite. That's the same name, whether you want to call her Ocean, Aphrodite, or Inanna. It's the same demon. It's the same fallen angel.
Or you call her Mary, the Queen of Heaven. It's the same thing.
The same thing. The same exact stuff that's associated with all of these things. It's such a demonic system and how they've done it. But what you really understand is, you got to remember, when y'all separated everybody at Babel, they all were under one system. So with the separation, it's like playing the game telephone. As things went down through the line, people do stuff and don't even know why they do it no more, because it's lost the original meaning. But that doesn't mean that it's still not worshiping that same spirit. Yep. And it's still not going to that same spirit that wants that worship. Worship is powerful. There's definitely a science to worship and how worship is. Look at how the Luciferians hate the death of Yahusha and when he came, because his death gave us ammunition to fight back against him. His death changed something in the earth. It's a long-lasting change. This is something that's just different. Why do they want sacrifices? There's an energy that's released during death that they harvest. It's something that they do that they want to grab. But Yahusha's death was so pure and so amazing, it just killed their powers and they can't stand them. Yep. This is why in Hollywood movies, they always use his name as a cuss word.
Exactly. And they took men captive. The devil took men captive at will. But now that Yahusha came and died and rose from the dead, and those who trust and believe in him and are born again, now we got power to fight back. This thing was bad, and it's bad today. That's why you're seeing what's happening now. We in a full-fledged onslaught. Which is why I keep saying I think the Exodus is near. It has to be, in my opinion. This is my opinion. Now, don't go say I'm prophesying.
I agree.
It has to be close because we ain't gonna survive if it's not. That's my opinion.
It's getting ridiculous. There's a lot of, I hear my wife, she works in healthcare too, and she's talking about all these people getting sick and all this stuff that's going on. There's a new, and it's funny. They're talking about it openly. This just goes to show that it's just time out. They're not hiding it no more. There's this thing called Havana Syndrome, where all the diplomats, only American diplomats in Havana, Cuba, were getting sick. But they said at first they heard a weird sound. They knew that there was this weird frequency noise that they heard, and then they all got sick. And then all in Vienna, they say Vienna's like a big haven for spies, but only the American diplomats that America won't name, but they all got sick in the same place. They can use sound as a weapon to make you sick. So if there's an anime called Hunter x Hunter that I like, and in Hunter x Hunter they have special abilities called nin. It's like it's kind of like the concept of chi and all that stuff that they always talk about in kung fu movies. But a normal layperson can't see nin, don't understand nin. It's like whatever. And if you don't understand nin and you don't cloak yourself in it and you don't protect yourself with it, as a person who knows nin, I can destroy you. I can shoot my energy into you and you'll just be done and you don't even know why. When the two main characters first encountered it, they were like, I don't know what's going on, but everything on me feels wrong. And they had to learn what it was so that way they can combat against it. If I keep all the knowledge away from you, if I keep you hidden from all the things in the past, and you say, oh, well, what does it matter? Oh, I don't need to know about that. Oh, just focus on the gospel. They're using weapons against you that you are ignorant of and you will die.
Well,
you will die from.
Just like now, you are in a warfare. You don't even realize it because they're not coming with tanks and guns.
It's all out war. It's an information war. It's also a biological war. Again, if that's the frequency that they're using for those people in Havana, who's to say that they're not using it anywhere else? That they don't have just little, receivers that they can put down somewhere and push this frequency through that'll cause an imbalance in our bodies. See, our bodies are very resonant, like magnetism. Because again, our bodies are like magnets. The Matrix even kind of alluded to it, saying the human is like a human body. What's in our blood? Iron. When we rub our feet, we have static electricity. Our body, if our heart stops, they use electricity to bring it back. My thoughts, me moving, all this is just electricity shooting through my nerves, telling my fingers and stuff what to do and manipulating. It's all electrical. It's all energy. And they understand this on the level. See, the Christians have always taught, don't go down that. Oh, that's New Age. That's New Age. No, this is Yah. This is him. All this energy is Yahuwah. All the magnetism and how this world functions and all the things that Yahuwah created, and it's his creation. It's just that these fallen angels have come in and perverted what he did and what he created, and people want to just give all the power to the devil and not to the one that made it. When Yahuwah addressed those fallen angels in Enoch, he says, you taught them useless secrets.
Yep.
He said that was useless parlor tricks. He's like, y'all pulling rabbits out the hat. That ain't nothing. Their stuff. Do you see how amazing these things are that they built? All this. This is genetic engineering on a level. Look at these creatures as genetic engineered. These is like not normal things that will happen in nature. They genetically engineered. They understand stuff at a high level that we don't understand. And Yahuwah says those are useless tricks. See, this is why I really feel like even for us as the brews, to really humble ourselves and to get our hearts right, because we are going to be the priestly class coming up. Come on, and Yahuwah is going to start showing us these things. We are going to be the people. When people, they always, you know, the camps want to say, oh, you're going to serve me, boy. You're going to do. No, we're going to be the servants. The nations are going to come to us for knowledge. And we are going to be that priestly class that's disseminating the knowledge to the people on how to live right and how to properly handle the land. No, you don't build on the land all year. You give it 1 year to rest, like Yahuwah said back in his word. So that way you can keep the land proper. There's a whole balance to the whole ecosystem that Yahuwah even gave in the law that they want to just throw away so willy-nilly. But it teaches us how to be, the earth is an organism. We don't worship it. We don't, you know, that's the problem. Everybody want to worship stuff. But the earth is a sentient being. It's a creature. It's alive. That's why y'all said the earth cries out and waits for the return.
But see, Red, the Eurocentric Christians want to tell us the law done away with, but you know the law tells you how to live. It tells you how to interface with this world. It tells you how to deal with demons. It tells you how to grow your crops. It tells you what's good to eat, what's not good to eat. The law has not been done away with. No. Look, the law in terms of salvation, you're not doing it to be saved. Yeshua saved. That's what we keep saying 100% of the time. But if anybody tells you it's not done, that there's no more law, think for yourself. Okay, well, what do I do next? What does God want me to do? Oh, I'm gonna be led by the Spirit. Okay, well, the Spirit leads you in all truth. What does he do? He brings back to your remembrance what? God's word. Come on.
Right. They won't want to follow Yah's law, but be the first one to say, render unto Caesar what's due Caesar. Exactly. They follow these backwards laws of America that's just so exclusionary and just wrong. No, that's fine. But the laws of Yah, we don't need that. We don't want to follow that. No. And again, none of this is necessary for salvation. Nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying none of this is, you need to know this for salvation, but you need to know this. Like you said, this is an advance for people that's okay. You done got in, you got your salvation. Now you need to know what the devil is doing.
See, why is the Gentile gonna say, oh, I hear that Yahuwah's with you, I want to come with you? Because Israel knows him. How does Israel know him? Both through his word, which is his laws, and by his Spirit. The other people don't know. The Gentiles don't know. They never knew him, and they're gonna be like, tell me about him. Right? Yes. How can we tell them about him if we don't know him and what his will is, and his will is in his word?
We're to be like just as how Christ was. And what do they do? They come up to Christ. What must I do to be saved?
Yep, exactly.
They want to. They all came to him. He was our example on what to do and how to deal and how to interface with people. There was stuff that he told the disciples. I'm sure that they couldn't even write down. He probably told them some things that was going down and told them some stuff. Probably even taught them a little bit of. There's one thing on the Passion of the Christ that I liked that they did. There was a little subtle thing that I was like, huh. Especially when you think about it now. They showed Christ making a modern chair. And then his mom looked at it and she's like, what's that? You're always making stuff. And he was like, oh, have a seat. And he made like a modern chair, which was different from the type of chairs that they made then. That was like a little subtle thing that they threw in there to kind of show that he was advanced for his time. And not only that, but that there was also advanced technology back in that day. Like these are things that we need to know, that this world has taught us to separate science and church. Like, remember that at one point in the church, you was like said anything scientific, they look at you, they threw up their hands and said, oh, it's not science, it's God, it's God, it's God, it's God. Like, no, there's a science to this thing. They will always tell you, oh, if you're sick, just pray, this, this. No, if you got a good Hebrew doctor, you better go to your doctor. You better go talk to your doctor and go talk to them and him. That's how I ended up losing my mother, because her fear, again, that church mindset, her fear of the doctor didn't let her go so she wouldn't catch the cancer sooner than later. See, they tell you all this stuff. Oh, throw away your medicines and throw away this and throw away that, but don't tell you nothing to put in the place of it. So you don't just throw away the medicine and just sit back and be like, okay, Lord, you gonna do it. Like, Yah has given us information and given us stuff. He's given us herbs that we can deal with. He's taught us different things that we can use to heal our bodies, even within the law. The law itself teaches us how to handle even our bodies. The stuff that he tells us not to eat are bottom feeders. There are things that are that's gross. And then another thing is, for all the pork people that don't want to say it, a part of the satanic ritual is either eating a human, cannibalism, or eating a pig, which is just feasted on a human. So Yahuwah know what he be doing. He know why he said what he said and why he do what he do. People just be too busy wanting to get caught up in their flesh and go along with the paradigm instead of just saying, you know what? I want Yahuwah so much, I'm not finna deal with this nonsense no more.
Exactly. That's like I say with the situation we're in right now. We're at at the Red Sea, right? That's
Yeah.
that's at our back. That's where we at right now. And Pharaoh's coming with his chariots. That's literally where we're at.
It's about to be pretty much they're not talking about it in American media, but all over the world they're going nuts about these passports. They wilding out. They going in, and it's coming over here too. They about to have it over here where if you don't have this and have that, you can't go to work. You can't go do this. PayPal just teamed up with the ADL, the American Defamation League, and they say, oh, so that way people that have problematic views, they can basically cut off their funding. So if they say, oh, they don't like what you're saying, you can't make money no more because PayPal won't let you do any transactions. Won't be able to buy or sell.
Yeah. Look, if y'all want to live in this system, that's y'all. I'm not.
For real, it's this system is really coming to a head. It's coming fast to a head. There's so much stuff going on in the world. Like every day, it's literally another page of revelation just being unfurled. It's not going. If anybody think it's going back to normal, it's not. It's just going to get worse. It's getting worse and worse and worse. This is why there's all sorts of alpha, beta, gamma nonsense going on. This is why there's people not even paying attention to the money markets. Like there's about to be a huge monetary crash. What they're going to do is they have to bring this system to an end first, so that way they can bring in these creatures. So that way they can bring in the true rulers of this world, the fallen angels. Y'all said that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and rulers of darkness. That's where these creatures are. That's what these things are. They want to come back and they want to come into the light again, but they can't do it until some folks die off. The Georgia Guidestones say it all. Like it's right there, and people don't even look at it. They literally the first thing on the Georgia Guidestones is bring humans down to I think 500 million.
Yep.
Or like that's we got what billions of people on here. How many people got to go until we get down to 500 million?
Yep.
And that's what these creatures do. They come in, they consume humans. These are the things that eventually I can foresee things coming up where you may have folks like in the Badlands, trying to just get by and not be a part of the system. And they'll send out these weird, crazy creatures to come hunt you down. Or they send out robot troops. They already use robots in New York. New York has those Boston Dynamics, that little robot Spot. They're using that robot already in New York for robot police.
Yep, and they already using military drones, like swarm drones in the Middle East right now.
Yeah, drones are huge right now, huge business because it's easy. You don't have to put nobody at risk. You can just fly over and just do all kinds of nonsense and be out, or just have a drone that's fully fitted with all kinds of nonsense and just crash landed into somebody's building and boom, there goes the building.
Yep.
There's stuff that we don't even know about that they have. There's all sorts. When you read about the weapons that they had during the time of the Indian weapons and stuff, they had napalm and stuff back then. Vishnu had a lightning weapon that he held in his hand that was like a directed energy weapon. They said it was like that's the same thing with like Zeus. When they say Zeus's thunderbolts, it was an energy weapon. This man had like a laser beam or something that he was shooting down. And they can even they have I forget the name of the city. There's a city over there. Right where they said they had that battle with that nuclear bomb that we talked about earlier, they go in there. They dig down. They can find glass where the sand became glass, like a nuclear blast hit. And they found bones in a nearby city, and all the bones are the most irradiated bones that they've ever seen.
Yep, this is why Hitler had the Anunnaki, and they were going around trying to find all of the ancient technology.
Hitler was in the Atlantic. He was up there in the Atlantic, and he literally built a bell-like device, which was similar to the Vimenas that the Indian folks talk about in their old writings that they had, the big riding flying ships that they were talking about. There's a documentary called Shoot the Moon that I think is pretty decent. Y'all should check that out too, especially if you're curious about like moon phenomena and stuff. This man basically spent like a year or two just basically every night recording the moon. And he used to see these little black triangles flying in front of the moon. Just every now and then, he just see them. Sometimes you'll see them in formation. They all just fly in front across the moon. Just all kinds of weird little, weird little ships just flying in all these crazy formations and doing all this crazy stuff that he saw. He even recorded one time when it was like during the day, he was recording a plane that was doing like, what they call the chemtrail stuff. It was leaving like trails and junk in the beginning, and you saw another little triangle figure fly up in the trail, and literally I had to rewind it like 5 times. I couldn't believe it. The thing was like shooting little dots in the clouds, like shooting, like it was like igniting something up there. Like, this jump is
Red,
real.
somebody wants to know if you got a channel.
I have one, but it's not ready up yet because my work schedule is ridiculous. I'm kind of the HNIC where I'm at, so I've been grinding all the time. It's funny that you had asked me to be on. I had just took a vacation today, so I'm like, I'm good, but I'm gonna stop working as much now, like especially with a lot of the stuff that's going on. And y'all have been really dealing with me about that, about putting a lot of stuff I just been studying over the years and just start throwing it out there. That's why I've been kind of throwing more and more stuff on Facebook. But it's going to when I do it, I'll definitely let you know. I'll let everybody know when I get it. I have it, but there's nothing on it right now. That channel is like empty. So once I get it, some stuff on there, then I'll bring it out.
Okay. So you have any more stuff to present, or is that it?
Oh, not right now. Not right now. I believe. Let me see here. What else? One other thing I could think of. Here is that family of 14, and this is them with their fingers. Let me just open the image in a new tab so you can get a good view. Let me see. Don't even hold on. Let me do this. Let me just save it real quick and open it so I can zoom it in so people can see.
That is freaky.
The whole family, 6 fingers and 6 toes. Whole family built like this.
So they don't have the height, but they have the 6 fingers, 6 toes. So what you think? The Nephilim or not?
That is Nephilim genes. Genes. Oh, and somebody did say, yeah, I am on Hebrew Sphere. So you want to add me on Hebrew Sphere? When I do eventually put that up, I will share it out on Hebrew Sphere. But yeah, I'm on Hebrew Sphere as well. And you see the skeleton right there with the fingers. You see the toes, which looks so weird. The toes that they have all in there. One of the old theories is a lot of these mountain stumps that we're seeing, like they have these mountains with hexagonal bricks all up in them. And one of the, they tell us that, this was occurred, their lines are so stupid.
So Red, I think I know what you're talking about. Are you talking about the trees?
Yes, the trees.
Man,
yep.
I just saw that yesterday, dude, and I'm like, wow, I never thought of that before. I'm like, it's possible. He makes some decent points, but go ahead.
Oh man, this the tree, because everything, like I said, everything is like vibrations and frequencies. There's a study of science called cymatics. And when you put like sand on a metal plate and you play different frequencies through it, it makes different shapes, and it makes different shapes that you see in nature, like the hexagon shape. The hexagon is like one of the strongest shapes that's out there. That's why bees use it. It's on the back of turtles. And when they do different frequencies, it'll match the inside of fruit. When you cut fruit in half, you'll see the same, certain frequencies match the same different types of fruits, which goes to show that plants are in tune with this magnetic frequency and they grow according to that. There's a sequence, they call it the Fibonacci numbers, but I don't even gonna call it named after no man. I like to call it the golden ratio. It's like Yah's signature on everything, where you can, when you measure, you have like one line, and if I take a line and I segment it, and then you take like a ratio of both sides of the line by basically dividing them by the total size of the line, you'll get a ratio that's equidistant to both sides. It's like 1.1618, and then it just repeats like that. This is found in everything. I'm talking about from shapes and geometry. Whenever you see like the conch shape that circulates into the middle, all of that is all a part of the golden ratio. The way rabbits reproduce can be tied into the golden ratio. This ratio is into so many things on this earth. It's literally a sign that this was created by somebody, because there's no way a random explosion could just cause so much symmetry and so much just logical conclusions. It doesn't make sense. I've never blown up a firecracker and had a table come up and appear before me. So this golden ratio is tied a lot into plants, and plants grow in that hexagonal shape. So when you see those different shoots that they have of these mountains, they call them tabletop mountains. But when you, in fact, let me pull up the tabletop mountains real quick. I'll make a new tab. I'll pull that up.
And see, the thing is, the golden ratio and all of that, those are physical laws, right? There's physical laws, there's spiritual laws, right?
Yes.
Once again, it ain't about being saved by your your ability or inability to keep the law of salvation through Christ, but there's standards to living. There's standards to how God wants you to live and to do things, and that is called laws, right? So, but like I say, right, it's the difference between the spiritual application and the letter.
I can't remember what those things are called. Those I want to find that actual what they call those things.
What are you looking for?
Those the rectangle rock formations that they try to say was formed by lava.
That whole mountain type thing, right?
Right. Here they go, right here.
Okay.
Like this type right here. Yeah. And the way these things work, let me see if I can find one that it does kind of come out there, but there's some of them you can find a bigger. Here we go. Perfect. Now, they got that weird color on it to try to throw it off. But they look like this. This is what all of the shapes look like. When you look at plant cells, and they look exactly like that as well. They would tell us, this is what they say, the official, here is a perfect example right there. There it is. They tell us that this was caused by volcanic, ash and volcanic molten lava just sitting down and settling, and then it forms into these perfect hexagonal. I mean, each one is like an individual flute that comes in and it sits like that. There's no way. I've never seen lava pool like that. Lava is a liquid, and when lava pools, it always has like that liquid form. One of the big theories is these were old trees. The trees, the land used to be so different. Our Earth is a very pale imitation of what it used to be. Yeah. The angels ruined the Earth. If you look at a lot of the mountain ranges, look at mountain ranges and then look at excavators and look at the way excavators leave the land and then look at mountain ranges again. I'm going to leave that for you, for everybody out there. This is for you to make your own decision. I'm not here to push nothing on you. Look at excavators and then look at that and then tell me.
Red, that one was a bit of a stretch for me. I ain't going to lie. I'm like, he pretty much had angels and giants digging up the whole planet. You know what I'm saying?
And that's what they was doing.
I couldn't buy that one, but the one about the trees and there being giant trees, I'm like, that is a possibility, because I do feel that ancient mythology is tied to our reality.
When oxygen is needed for anything in an oxygen-rich environment, things grow super big. You can put plants in an oxygen-rich environment. That's why they give you like oxygen-rich soil and all these things to increase oxygen to the plant to make it grow bigger. This is why when Yah said, my will not always strive with man, I'm going to give him 120 years, it's because he changed the nature of the atmosphere. The oxygen levels drop, which is why when you look at a lot of accounts of Noah from like third-party sources, they talk about Noah. They used to call him Gallus. Noah's Gallus. They used to say that because he was, they said he was reckless. Gallus, I think it means reckless. And he was a drunkard, which you got to kind of understand. And when you read Jasher, Noah went through some crap. All the righteous people died before the flood. Before Yah brought the flood on, he made it till all the righteous died. So Noah literally watched all his loved ones and all the people that he had feelings for, except for his immediate family, die. And then after the last one went, Yah was like, all right, get in the boat. Let's go. We finna make this happen. And after that, people were shorter. They referred to Noah as a giant. Adam, it was often, even in Christians, I've heard them talk about, they say Adam was a different type of human, that he could walk longer than we could walk, and he could do things that we couldn't do because he was born in an oxygen-rich environment. If you're born and raised in an oxygen-rich environment, if your blood is saturated with oxygen, you can run longer, you can do a whole lot more things different. Plus, you'll grow bigger. It's conducive for our body to grow. So with these oxygen-rich environments, of the oxygen-rich environment, these trees can go giant. Even when you look at the old redwood trees that they all tore down, they just left one, but they tore down all the other giant trees. Like they did a number. They tore down the redwoods. They tore down almost all of them except for like one. There's only like one, I think maybe two or so in California, but there's like one that they keep like cozied off in California. There's like the super giant trees. There's pictures of let's see here. You have miners. So let me bring that up here. There's pictures of miners from old of course I'm using DuckDuckGo, but they don't want to show me the old pictures. But these redwood trees, this is a tree now. Again, huge tree, but there's trees that were bigger than that. There was trees that it had like 5 grown men taking up, let's see here, old. Let me look at see if I can find the old ones. Where I can find that. Here it is. Here's one right there. Yes, there we go. There we go. That's what I want to see. The old logging. As a matter of fact, it might be all on here. Yeah, that's what I like about this site. Sometimes they'll show you what you want to see. So here we go. No, I'm not going to join your site. This guy right here, there's one picture on the top. This is a tree that they cut down. Now, this man's all the way at the top of the ladder, and that's a huge tree. You see the different size between the people that were there. So it's not nothing crazy to say that trees grow giant. This is not a abnormal thought process. They were here, but a lot of times, like I said, that 1800s is a weird time because they just was cutting down and just was doing a lot of weird stuff and getting rid of stuff. It's like they were hiding. Because they cut down almost all those trees and they just left like a few of them. There were a lot of them over in California, but they left like just a few of them on there. But these trees were huge, huge trees. I mean, look how small these guys are. Again, let me see if I can, let me save the image and then blow it up so people can see it clear. This dude, these men are small compared to this tree. That tree is huge. That's a huge tree. And at the time, when you look at a lot of these mountains and how they grow and how they plateau out and how they come, look at how the tree comes down with the sides and how they slope. Go and again, I'm go and research it for yourself. Look at it and look at the trees and then compare them to tree stumps. Look at the mountains, the what they call the tabletop mountains and the plateaus, and then look at some tree stumps and see how they all flow in and flow together. And what I think the thing that really kind of kicked it, that made me kind of believe it, is when they started talking about volcanoes and them being compost heaps. I didn't know that compost heaps spontaneously burn. I went on a whole YouTube and nosedive looking at people's compost heaps spontaneously combust. Like people will take their compost heaps and just have them in their backyard and they'll just catch fire, like random. So what happens on the small level happens on the big level. They're saying that, the angels ruined the earth. That's what he was saying. To build all this stuff and to get these resources, it takes a lot to do that. Basalt was one. No, it's not basalt. Beryllium is one that they use a lot, which is a magnetic material. Silicon is huge. I mean, we use silicon to this day. Silicon, is a major thing. Major thing. Again, when you look at the remnants of a lot of these mountains, silicon is all in the remnants of the mountains and all that stuff. And there's even the moving dunes in I think they're in Africa, where they had the dunes that move. They move because of they're magnetic, and as the wind blows, they all latch onto each other and move with the wind because it's magnetic stuff that's all put together. Knowing what we know, that these old communities use electromagnetism at a high level, it's not crazy to think that they was out here mining the earth and doing all kinds of craziness to build these cities.
So, Red, you don't believe that the previous life forms on Earth were silicon based, do you?
No. But silicon is a heavy conductor of oxygen. It was a high saturation of oxygen that was done on Earth. This is why things grew bigger. This is why when you look at the giants in Noah's time that Enoch talked about, he said they were 100 cubits or something, 300 cubits. When you do that in the math conversions, that's ridiculously tall. It's taller than our tallest building now. And
you can find some of them footprints in stone.
Yes, exactly.
That's what made me believe, because some people say, well, they weren't that big. They probably were no bigger than Shaq or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, they were bigger than that.
There is footprints in stone that are ridiculous. I'm talking about huge. These aren't even as big as the ones that that's a big one right there. Yeah. This one is just don't make no sense. Don't make no sense that the foot could be that huge. See, these are after the flood giants right here. Yeah. That was a big giant. This is during David in them time when they were just 13 feet.
How come we don't see 6 toes though?
That's a good question. That is a good question. Why they don't have the 6 toes on them? I often wondered about some of these. I think were just set up. Some of these, are, I believe, because what you do is when you want to hide the truth, you put lies in the middle of the truth. That's true. What a lot of them do. They'll put a lot of stuff that they put out there. They'll put fake stuff out there to try to fake people out. Yeah. And I don't think all of them had 6 fingers and 6 toes. That was just like we see now is an anomaly. The fallen ones had to learn things and they did things and experiments and stuff too. They didn't have all the knowledge. They had to figure things out as well too. They just understood it on a deeper level than we did because they're not all knowing. They don't know everything like Yah does. They're still figuring stuff out. If they knew all knowing, then they would have been, built some CERN thing years ago and got themselves out. But now they're getting to the point they don't even understand how to break themselves out. So they're working with their current, folks that's up there doing all that weird stuff at CERN to open up the floodgates so they can get they daddies and them out of the darkness that Yahuwah sent them to.
Yeah. So Red, can you let people know your contact information and how they can get in contact with you and things like that?
I'm on Hebrew Sphere. I would say I'm Big Red on Hebrew Sphere. You can definitely get at me there. I'm on Hebrew Sphere. And then, I'm on Facebook too. You can hit me up on Facebook, Chester. Just look for Chester. You'll see red dude with little dreads up in there coming up. You can just look for me there on Facebook too. Because once I start getting the studies and stuff and running with the channel, this was something that Yahuwah definitely always put on my heart because it's been something that I've thought about for years. I've been studying different parts of science and stuff because I've always felt like, they under the church used to always try to make God and science separate, and I'm like, nah. Like Yahuwah created this world.
Exactly.
Like this is his creation. You can't separate the two. It's just that this is a part of the system that they created, so that way we no longer associate the two. That's a part of the lie that they've created. So if you separate the two, then it's harder for you to get an understanding of how these two things come together. This is why people fall for these lies with syncretism and all that. They can say, oh, it's zombie, and not understanding that, no, this was all from one point it's all originated at one point.
Yeah, and I'm going to have Pastor Kelly on Wednesday, and we're going to talk about syncretism and how that works, right? Because it's a subtle lie, right? Oh. It's subtle.
It's big time. There's that, it's been going. This ain't nothing new. Again, there's nothing new under the sun. There was one. I think they combined Hermes and Anubis. You literally had like Hermes' body and Anubis' head. There's images of that. Like there's all sorts of examples of syncretism all throughout history of multiple different religions and stuff as they've taught it. But it's really all worshiping the same thing. Shiva uses a lightning attack. Thor uses lightning. Come on, man.
All right. Thank you, Big Red, for coming on. I like to do this again because this was fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And family, reach out to him. And I like to see that channel go up, Red. I like to see that.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do it. Like I said, I just work so much, but I'm winding that back because this is far more important than anything. Because this is definitely what we're walking. This is about to be the world that we're walking into. Yeah, we're about to walk into this reality of what this is. With this great awakening that we're happening right now. Yep. And as we get pulled back into the land, Yah is going to do just as he did back in the day. We're going to have the angel messengers come, and they're going to be teaching us, and they're going to be teaching us so that we can teach the nations. So it's important that we learn this, and we learn it from the right way, because as always, Satan's going to come and bring his way on.
Well, that's the thing. To ignore how the spirit interfaces with the physical, I think has been the problem with the church, right? Because you can't separate it. The body can't live without the spirit. The spirit can't interact with the creation without a body. So thanks again, Red. I'm gonna put you on backstage, and I'd like to have you on again.
Okay.
All right. Thanks. And family, thank y'all for listening. I want to thank all of the Super Chat supporters and the Cash App and the Patreon supporters. And also, go ahead and contact Red on Hebrew Sphere. And, hopefully he get his channel up. I'd like to listen to it. Very good information. And thanks again, Red, for coming on. And peace and blessings, Israel. Your captivity is ending. And please make sure to go and support our brothers and sisters who are part of the Dry Bones Project.